How y'all, Worm here. It's an overlooked fact to many that NPC dialogues during questing can change a great deal. The developers and localization teams go to a massive length to make our experience as immersive as possible, even when they don't need to. One of my favourite aspects of FF14 is that after each main scenario questline completes, NPCs around the world have their dialogue changed and even changed locations, whether or not they played a part in the said scenario. I made a Reddit post last year actually stating as such. This is one of the things that really brings the game world to life. So I've set myself a mission to explore the world and find all the NPCs that had their dialogue changed between the end of Shadowbringers and the end of 6.0 Endwalker. I've only spoken to a couple of NPCs and already I can see that there's been massive changes, with many actually giving us insight into what the future may hold for the game. Now, I can't explore the whole game and speak to every NPC in one video, that would honestly take hours. So I'll do that in my personal time and maybe do a future video about that. For this video, I've set myself two goals. First is to find the members of the Ilsebard contingent, most of whom have actually returned home from Garlemald. Second is to locate our fellow Scions of the Seven Dawn, who've spread out all over the world at this point after the Scions, at least in the public face, have disbanded. And I'm not just looking for the main Scions either, every one of them will be my goal. So with goals in place and the mission clear, let's get this journey started. Alright, so we're going to start this journey where we actually ended it in Endwalker, in the Rising Stones, right after the Scions disband was confirmed. Oh, you're back. Did you forget something? Just wanted to see how I was faring, you say? Aw, that's so sweet. Rest assured, everything is fine. Right now I'm working on a new product that's bound to fly off the shelves. It can get a bit lonely here, but like you, some familiar faces occasionally drop by. In anticipation of such visits, I make a point of keeping the place nice and clean. So the Scions disbanded. End of an era. But when one adventure ends, a new one begins. Is that not so? Go out there and be the adventurer you're meant to be. When you need a break, the Rising Stones will be here waiting as always. We were recently approached by a man named Hoary Boulder, who needed assistance in defending the exile from Imperials who had emerged from one of the Telophoroi's towers. Imagine our surprise when during our mission, said tower suddenly vanished. It was only later that we learned its disappearance was due to your actions, as part of the Ilsebard contingent many miles to the north. As a matter of fact, you were not the only acquaintance of mine to join this collective of renowned warriors. My countryman Rostic was able to overcome his hatred of the Empire, and led in his considerable strength to aiding his people. Perhaps you had occasion to speak with him? Yes, I did actually. In any case, now that the capital has fallen, it remains to be seen what will become of the formerly occupied territories. Whatever the future holds for our respective homelands, Sophie and I will endeavour to build better relations between them and Eorzea. Worm, how lovely to see you. You are doing well, I trust? I've been busy writing letters to those who lent aid to the Scions, thanking them and asking for their continued support. And wouldn't you know it, I received a reply from Lady Emmanellain herself. She invited me to visit the Levieur estate and meet with her in person. I'm quite looking forward to it. We have heard about your recent exploits, my friend. Your customary heroism aside, I understand you have made new discoveries pertaining to certain key figures in Allegan history. When we both have a moment, I should very much like to have the details from you. With the Scions disbanded, our friend has returned to Sharlayan, but we sons continue our work here. You are welcome to visit us at any time. Alright, so it looks like Grahatia actually dropped by and filled Rammbroes in on a number of things, particularly about Amon, but also telling him where he was going, which is nice, I guess. Worm, old boy, when I saw you off on the Ragnarok, I had every faith you would return. And here you are, a more dependable comrade a man could never hope for. Got to see Emmanellain's actually doing well, and he didn't dance for once. Although I kinda miss it. How fare I? All the better for seeing you hale and whole, my friend. Though I and the rest of the Ilsebard contingent had every confidence you would return safely, 'twas far from a foregone conclusion. A sentiment shared, 'twould seem, by Estinian. After returning from your journey beyond the stars, he paid me a visit. He spoke as if the words might be his last. Indeed, he was more candid than I have ever known him, His tribulations with Nidhogg have left him a changed man in many ways, and not all for the worse. Since meeting you and yours, he has learned to put the past behind him, a past I know only too well. And now, you and Estinian have saved the world that Midgardsormr himself chose as the last hope for his kind. Man and dragon alike owe much and more to your great deeds. I and the other members of the Diversionary Force were sorely tested, but I am pleased to say that each and any one of us made it back to camp. Some might call it a miracle, though in truth, it was a result of careful planning and various delegates working as a unified front. I must say, I had my doubts about Lord Emmanellain's ability to hold his own under such conditions. In the end, the lad acquitted himself rather well. I think having his own grown rivalry with Sicard to thank for his newfound resolve. Theirs was but one example of promising young warriors combining their unique strengths for a single purpose. My father hath told of thy deeds, little one. Of thy newly forged bond with his brother Vitra, of thy journey across the great expanse, and thy struggle to avert great catastrophe. We who call this star home owe its continued existence to thee and thine. Like old Louis Soir, you lot set out to save the world. Like him, you believed in your cause with all your heart, and like him, you succeeded. The spineless wretches of the Forum could stand to take a cue from your example. Now, as Stola would tell you, I tend to be sparing with my praise, but for what you've accomplished, you have my respect and admiration. Well now, have you come to check on Master Matoya? How very thoughtful of you. She appreciates your visits, even though she would never admit it. Despite her years, she remains as indefilable as ever. To hear her tell it, she means to incite abandonment and claim the anti-tower as private property. For my part, I'm glad to see you too. I'm only here until I find the tome I'm after in the library, so your timing couldn't be better. Makes you wonder actually where your Stola is going to be heading after she finds that tome. And is this tome actually tying into something in future? Well, aren't we the creature of habit? Not much reason to call on us these days, yet here you are. Curious to see how we're getting on? Ah, that black business. I've heard the same as everybody else, which is to say, not much. You and yours have been involved, I trust? To the edge of the great expanse and beyond. I won't attempt to understand how any of that was even possible, but I've no doubt it played out exactly as you said. And so, having saved life as we know it from oblivion, you return to your Dark Knight stomping grounds to see if there's any less cosmic villains in need of a firm rebuke? Pretty much. No rest for the righteous indeed. You'd be disappointed to hear that things are fine for the most part, likely due to you going about playing hero. Aye, not much has changed, to the frustration of many it seems. Like Raya in her height, I swear. Every day she's trying some new trick she's learned about from a friend's sister's cousin. Children are always so eager to grow up. I was too, I suppose, like everyone else once was. Listen, Worm, I don't know if you came back hoping to have some final pearls of wisdom to share, something to put it all in perspective, but if you did, you were wrong. You know everything you need to know already. You bear the sword and the promise, memories and dreams of your own and of others. You stand for those who have no one else. That's all there is to it. There's no path to walk or guide to follow. What strength and meaning you derive from the struggle is yours alone to find. No one else was ever the writer. It's always been your story. So go and live it. This is actually something I've been speculating on myself. People were a bit upset that we actually didn't get new job quests from our job teachers like Sidurgu here. But the main reason we didn't is because they have nothing left to teach us. We've learned all the skills they had to teach us, and then we've expanded upon those arts in ways they couldn't even imagine. So at this point, we don't need job quests anymore. We be the ones giving out job quests. We're the masters of those arts now. Master Limian, glad I am to see you safely returned. 'Tis not only Ishgard, but every nation upon this star which now owes a debt to your selfless heroism. Should you ever require a place to rest your weary wings, may my home ever serve as sanctuary. I know my 3 sons would joyful stand by me in providing you the warmest welcome. Designing a basic cerulean heater is relatively simple, but finding a way to make it run on as little fuel as possible, therein lies the rub. I and the other technologically inclined members of our contingent put our heads together, and after much heated discussion, pray excuse the pun, we finally arrived at a solution. We may have all widely differing methods and ideologies, but when all is said and done, the end result is all that matters. It was an honour to fight by your side, and an invaluable experience besides. But the fight isn't over yet. We must continue to give it our all if we're to prove the strength of scholars and marauders alike. Oh, I'm so glad Alka is safe. Not a moment went by that I didn't spend worrying about him. However, I was at least inspired by his bravery to try and contribute myself. I did what I could to aid those treating the Tempered, who were rescued from the tower. In case you're wondering who Setoto actually is, she's part of the Scholar's Job storyline. She actually used to be a Tonberry until she was cured of the green sickness. This was actually inspired by the cure we brought back from the first that also inspired the cure for tempering. There he is, the hero of the hour. Knew you had it in you to bring down the tower. Of course everyone had to play their part. We certainly had our hands full keeping the guards and the delegations and subduing the Tempered. Who would have thought, when everything was said and done, we'd all get together around a stove to break bread, eh? Never dreamed such a thing before joining the contingent. I met some damn fine warriors out there, especially them Aura from Ocher. Might have even picked up a trick or two from watching them fight. Worm, ever a sight for sore eyes. When your starship came flying back, this old mercenary was weeping tears of joy, and I ain't ashamed to admit it. Now I ain't sure me bar's got anything worthy of the saviour of the star, but what we lack in quality, we always make for in quantity. Ain't that right? These 2 people here are actually what inspired me to make this video in the first place. It's their dialogue that made me realise these NPCs have been dropping a lot of hints as to where we may be going next. Well, if it isn't Master Limian, I just reunited with some of my former Maelstrom comrades. It was quite a relief to see them in good health. Commander Ricky even asked if I'd like to rejoin their ranks. While I was flattered by the offer, I told her I did not regret shedding the red. Instead, I'll reminisce over the old days with a pint or 2, and then sober up so I can help Bluomwyda plot a course for our next voyage. Ah, Worm, what a pleasant surprise. Aergmhus and I, emphasis on I, are in the midst of mapping out a way to reach our next destination, the Isle of Erzland in the Northern Empty. Erzland is the ancestral home of Rogadin, and we would like to see it with our own 2 eyes. Unfortunately, information regarding the current state of the Isle has been scarce in recent days. If we learn aught of note, you'll be the first to know. This actually made me think that Erzland will probably be one place that we'll visit maybe in a patch, or even in the next expansion. Glad I am to see you well, Worm. The Elementals too whispered their delight. I have received word of your exploits in Garlemald. They say you offered the gift of friendship, the gift of hope, to your once sworn enemies. Truly it sounds like a journey of unforeseen destinations. Aru has enjoyed his time with members of the Isabar contingent, and it seems they have had no small measure of influence on his way of thinking. It reminds me that we must step outside the 12's wood on occasion, or risk losing sight of the larger world. By the way, you should be glad to hear that Alakwa has settled in mostly comfortably. She enjoys the quiet of the forest, and her presence has even given me cause to reflect on how we might reconnect with the nature around us. Welcome, Worm, welcome. As grateful as I am you saved a star, I am most grateful for your safe return. Victory would lose its savour were you not still with us. Will you stay a while and have some tea? If so, I should very much like to hear about your tales of courage and high adventure. Just until you've drained your cup. Actually, I'd love a cup of tea, thank you, Mother Miounne. There is nothing like the example our fellows encourage us to strive for higher, and 'tis hard to imagine a finer example than saving the world. Inspired by your deeds, our members are more determined than ever to protect the forest. They train harder and undertake patrols with greater zeal and focus, than I couldn't be prouder of them. Nor am I the exception to your positive influence. You have far surpassed me, Worm, and fixing you in my sights I shall endeavour to continue growing as an archer. Luciane wasn't a part of the contingent, however she did brave the binding coils along with the others in order to get the materials we required. What an honour it is to have the world's saviour grace our humble guild. Word of your courageous deeds travels swiftly, and I can scarce believe the heights to which my former student has soared. To say you are a credit to the Lancers art barely begins to describe it. Though several of our members joined the Ichibar contingent, the rest of us were largely occupied with the defence of Gridania. Why, one of those dreaded blasphemies even appeared in the Black Shroud. Indeed, there is no greater honour than to serve one's people in their time of need, but I do regret not having the opportunity to see you take the field on this occasion. From what I gather, you are a sight to behold, a whirlwind racing across the frozen plains. Mayhap one day, I might fight by your side once more. Ywain is actually another person who actually went into the binding coils to get the materials we needed. It is good to see you well, Worm, though I wish my sister would have at least given forewarning before embarking on such a journey. That said, I am full glad to know that you have all returned to us hale and whole. The Scions of the Seventh Dawn have disbanded? Well, I should think even a momentous change such as that will do little to sway Y'shtola from her pursuit of knowledge. That goes for me as well. The star may have been saved, but it is no reason for me to abandon my quest for knowledge of the Allagan Empire. In fact, the recent discovery of Allagan ruins in Bosja, among other places, has found the Sons of St. Connacht increasingly busy of late. So do not be surprised if we call upon you again in future. That's actually quite interesting. I wonder if we'll find ourselves in Bosja again, rooting through Allagan ruins. Oh, how I miss hoary Boulder. I longed for the day I could have a brother on each arm, but it seems all that dreaming was for naught. My appetite is lost, and sleep does not come easy. I can scarce hold my bow without the hands starting to shake. Could this be? This lack of brotherly love must be causing me to suffer withdrawal. Oh, help me, Clemens. 'Tis good to see you again. We're using Gridania as our base of operations, honing our skills, while offering our assistance to the guilds as they require it. While we may enjoy a comparatively peaceful life at present, it does not mean that no trouble is afoot, and there's no rest for the Scions. Welcome, Worm, defender of our star and champion nonpareil. On behalf of the Great One and all the inhabitants of the Twelveswood, I extend to you our most sincere and heartfelt gratitude. The elementals whisper of averted catastrophe. I understand that you worked alongside our conjurers in Garlemald, and Eru also sends words of your deeds. 'Tis thanks to your bravery that Ironworld is now not some barren husk. 'Tis thanks to your courage that we might continue living in peace in these woods. For 2 centuries and more I have walked this land, yet never have I cherished every stone and every branch as much as I do now. May the Matron and the Great One bless you and keep you, Worm. Oh, Worm, thanks to you we may continue protecting our precious wood. That's what Brother E-Sumi-Yan was saying anyway. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but I hope you'll tell me more of your stories again sometime. It sounds like she was asking and he just kind of made up a story, because telling her we flew to the end of the universe to avert catastrophe is not a good thing to say to a little girl. The Scions may be over and done with, but I keep returning to these halls out of force of habit. The fact that you're here has me wondering if I ain't the only one who can't shake it. What a journey it's been, I must say. After we parted with you and yours at the Arcadium, we had ourselves a scuffle with some of the Tempered. But I must say, you were incredible out there, Worm. I always knew there was something about you. Something special. But seeing it up close and personal like that? Goodness. You are truly a hope for the people. When I thought I was done for, it felt like I couldn't take a single step more. I could hear your voice telling me to get back up. To fight to the bitter end. You saw me through my darkest moments by giving me hope and courage when I needed it most. And for that I thank you. The way you employed our art at the Tower of Babel was most impressive. Explosive. Speaking of explosive, prior to the contingent's departure, our youngest brother furnished us with a concoction that would keep us warm. But upon drinking it, my entire body became blazing hot, a veritable volcano. For a time it was all I could do not to erupt fire from my mouth. When I speak of my love for incineration, it usually doesn't include our own innards. During the expedition to Ilsabard, my brothers and I bore witness to hellish horrors, to darkest darkness. Yet there was also light, a light of all-consuming blaze. It melted away the despair that crawled up from the depths, and shone a way forward towards hope. To whom that light refers, I trust I needn't say. Drawing inspiration from said light, we are more determined than ever to not be outdone by Predator Yadiaki. No, we will strive to make a better guild. For this we must examine whence we have come, and whereto we wish to go. Wherever the roads may lead, I hope our paths continue to cross, for yours is a truly fascinating existence, and we shall never tire of plummeting the depths of your potential. Tales of your exploits in Garlemald and beyond have not escaped my ears. That the power of destruction that lies within you could bring salvation to those beset by war and calamity is a testament to your dedication to the dark arts. As a matter of fact, Master Kokobuki urged me to join the Isobar contingent, alongside selected members of the guild. To my eternal disgrace, however, that accursed Yadiaki saw fit to cast a sleeping enchantment upon me from the shadows. While my colleagues departed for parts unknown, I was left here, sleeping like a newborn. I shall never forgive her for robbing me of this chance of a lifetime. That's why Lalai couldn't go with us? Yayaki, I do not like you anymore. We needed a black mage. Well, if it isn't Worm. You're all every man in his chocobo has been talking about of late. But that's what you get for saving this whole Tsar, eh? Not to worry though, the novelty will wear off soon enough, and you can go back to enjoying the quiet life. But whatever happens, rest assured, you'll always have a place here at my bar. These are dark times, but the show of the Mujigoza goes on, and so I continue to take the stage and dance. Of course, I worry for my homeland of Razadhan, and yet the people of Kugane too require succor. If my dancing can keep their spirits high amidst all the uncertainty, then I have done my duty as a dancer. Besides, rumour about town has it that you've been something of a regular presence in Thavnir of late. So it was true. Thank you, Worm. Knowing that, I will continue to do what I can for those around me, taking comfort in knowing that my home is in good hands. That's close enough, savage. Dude, the Garlean Empire is gone. This consulate means absolutely nothing anymore, so you... get out. What a pleasure it is to see you again. Allow me to express my gratitude for your part in paving the way for many extremely lucrative dealings with the merchants and artisans of Sharlayan. Regrettably, the celebration I plan to hold in your honour will have to be postponed somewhat. I am absolutely inundated with appointments to meet with recently made acquaintances, such as the alchemists of Razadhan and members of the Forum. Chairman Lorarito would be most displeased were I to pass up yet more money-making opportunities. Okay, but I want my party sooner rather than later, Hancock. Truly you have the look of one who's fought a great battle and lived to tell the tale. Since your journey to the distant stars, that preening fool Magni has done naught but stare at the moon. I know not what thoughts go through that ugly head, nor do I much care, but it bothers me all the same. At the command of them all, we Orenir gathered many sacred relics. I trust we have your undying gratitude, yes? But rather than your thanks, I would rather hear tales of your journey. Is it true you travelled to the moon? Indeed, such great feats are only spoken of in legend. To think that you have set foot on a celestial orb graded by the Dust Mother herself fills me with envy and awe, but mostly envy. Tell me, were there any women folk there? Oh, would you get your mind out of your moon, please? Thank you. Bye. I hope the relics that we and the people of Yangsha and the Ruby Sea gathered were useful to you. When you and the Scions flew beyond the sky, we each prayed for you in our own way. Perhaps you and your friends averting the final days is what Grandmother foresaw in her dream. But more importantly, all is right with the world again, and we have you to thank. In case you're wondering what she means by that, her grandmother's kind of a fortune teller. She kind of predicted the final days, and to a part, us actually going up to the stars. Feo-U has brought the joyous tidings. The final days are averted. You have saved our world yet again, and all the way from your own. No words will suffice to express our gratitude, but thank you, from the bottom of my heart. Please take care, you and everyone. When next I see Reen, I will let her know that you graced us with a visit. Worm, to think that you are hiding something so enormous as the potential end of all life. For your deceit, I shall give you a piece of my mind, but I understand that you meant well. Therefore, as fitting payment for seeing you hale and whole, I will overlook it this once. Now, off with you before I change my mind. Oh, Worm, it's wonderful to see you, but perhaps now is not the best time for you to be here. The other alchemists have been searching for you. They've come to understand that your penchant for manipulating Akasha, and they wish to run tests. I'd rather you not be subjected to their ceaseless poking and prodding, unless you want to, of course. No. Oh, Worm, how good of you to visit. As you can see, there is little change with us, just pushing steadily along with our work. A typical day involves tending to our commissions, sorting research materials, and liaisoning with collaborators. It doesn't sound like much, but it keeps the few of us here busy. As few as we are, we've been able to keep your chamber as it is. If you ever need a place to rest your weary head, you're welcome to use it. Okja, for one, would be pleased. Worm, I didn't know you were in Charlian. You'll be staying a while, I hope. Lest you wonder, we've yet to receive a commission of note, and it hasn't been terribly exciting. The past few days have been mind-numbingly dull, in fact. Kryl has me sorting endless stacks of tomes. I'm still working through them at the moment, but perhaps later we can go have a meal together. I should like to hear about your recent adventures, and of course, I'd be more than amenable to embarking on one together. Worm, how good of you to come. Would you care for a cup of tea? Or perhaps a light snack? No? Just as well. I've no doubt there's yet much for you to do, as Alphino's letters would attest. He writes more frequently than ever these days. Much to my surprise and delight, Fortuno actually reads his letters now, albeit always with furrowed brow. He knows Alphino will be fine, but much like me, he can't help but worry. If it isn't Worm, how have you been feeling? No dizziness or nausea or some ailment other than after your journey? In particular, if you're having hallucinations, it may mean that an alien life form is taking over your brain, and invasive surgery may be required to remove it. That was a jest. Do you like it? Oriange says it's useful for building rapport with you people. Well, well, I know not what errand bringeth thee hither, but thine is ever a welcome presence. There being no inherent urgency to begin our wanderings, Thancred and I did decide to first see how far the discussions between the Forum and the Loporrits and, should it be necessary, lend our aid. In exploring the uses for the moon and ventures beyond the star, soon or late other parties will inevitably seek to be involved. We must needs ensure that the tendrils of dark designs are not permitted to weed their way onto this endeavour. Ah, fancy meeting you here. Come in to look on the starship, have you? I must say, it already feels like an age ago when we enhanced this vessel's aether burner and then rode it forth onto the great unknown. Sometimes I find myself gazing up at the starry sky, wondering if it's all just a dream. Once behind you, even the grandest adventures become but a memory. Here to see Alize and Alphino, perchance. When last we spoke, they and Julius were planning to visit Tertium. After all they've been through, I was glad to see them in such high spirits. Their optimism is shared by many involved with the reconstruction efforts, particularly my countrymen. We shall soon see their work rewarded, I am sure. For my part, I will remain in my role here to continue to serve as Ishgar's representative. You and the Scions have pulled this world back from the brink, and this sudden shift in fortunes is especially pronounced here in Garlemald. Having come so close to utter annihilation, we are now able to begin the slow process of building this nation anew. The first step is to provide the people of Garlemald with the bare essentials, that they may return to living normal lives rather than merely surviving. Then there are the provinces to consider. Unfortunately, we have yet to verify the state of affairs, particularly the intentions of the legions stationed in other regions. But whatever may come, we shall be ready to face these challenges. Maxima makes an extremely good point here. A number of legions are unaccounted for, in particular the legion that took part in the Bozan Southern Front. So, I have no doubt we're going to see those legions pop up in either the next patch or even closer to the next expansion. Didn't expect to see the twins in Garlemald again. Like you, they risked life and limb to save the world, and some would say they've earned a lifetime of peace and quiet. Yet here they are. When they said that they wished to help us, they truly meant it. And even when outsiders haven't given up on us, then how could we possibly give up on ourselves? The road to recovery will be long and hard, but we'll spare no effort. We'll rebuild Garlemald into a nation that all can be proud of. For those who are still here, as well as those who couldn't be. Just my personal take here, I am of the opinion that Julius is going to one day become either a significant figure or possibly the leader of the new Garlemald. Guess what? The other day, I tended to a beast terrorizing the station area, and afterwards a family came to thank me. And on another occasion, soldiers of the First Legion taught me about the medicine they use. It's unlike anything we've seen in Eorzea. It's not all uplifting tales, of course, but every day I'm afforded the opportunities to grow. If only it weren't so cold all the time. Worm, you came! Words cannot express how glad I am to see you. We've just begun our work here with the contingent and local volunteers. Our foremost priority is establishing the number of survivors and distributing vital supplies. As we continue our efforts, we will ensure that everything is done in consultation with the Garlean people. This is their nation after all, and theirs must be the hands that steer its course. The Loporrits have told me of your victory over Meteion. It is a relief to know that Hydaelyn's wish for Aetherius and her people was granted. She is not here to revel in your victory, but so long as there is life on Aetherius, her spirit shall live on, in her soothing summer rains and gentle spring breezes. She will be with you always. And that just about does it for the NPCs I was specifically targeting, which are the ones from the Scions of the Seven Dawn and the Iltzabar contingent, along with a few more. This isn't all of them, not by a long shot, there are so many NPCs with new dialogue, but I encourage you to go out and check those out yourself. There's literally so many of them, and they add so much substance to the story of FF14. Thanks for watching everyone. This is my first video of 2022 and I've loads more to come, particularly about a number of subjects, like the one behind me for example, so please look forward to those. Thanks all, and now, as always, have a good one.